Welcome to Postscript. Here we hope to answer your questions and help you dig deeper into the messages and sermons at Faithbridge by talking with the teacher of the day.
Hi, and welcome to Postscript. I'm Luann Riley, Grow Group and Discipleship Director, and I'm here with Bible teacher Ben Stuart. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you.
Okay, so great message today.
Thanks.
Definitely a hot topic. Definitely has a lot of intricacies as you apply this to your life and your situation and what's happening in yours. And so we had a lot of questions.
Okay.
A lot of questions. So in order for Postscript not to be hours long, we're going to kind of bring some of those questions in together.
Okay.
A lot of the questions that we got were around very specific situations. One of them, for example, being how do you decide if you address a parent of a child who hurts your child?
Yeah.
Or how do I handle this specific situation that's happening in my life? What would you say about those?
Right. Yeah. It is difficult to answer like one like that. How old's the kid? Do you know the parents? In what scenario? Like, the counsel would vary based on some more information. And so that's where, I would say with issues like that, and I maybe should have said this caveat in the sermon, is saying you want to keep the circle small in confrontation, but it's not gossip to seek wisdom. And so all wisdom's not housed in your friend that's maybe the same age as you, but maybe you can go to a pastor or someone that you know is a pretty wise person and say, hey, here's the situation I'm dealing with, and let them journey with you through the specifics. Because there would be scenarios where I would say, yeah, you need to talk to those parents. Or there would be scenarios where I would say, given the kid's age or the structure where those kids are meeting, you need to go in this direction. So for a lot of these questions, I would say, you need to ask the hard question of, do I have wise Christian counsel in my life? And if I don't, what do I need to do to get it? So I could sit with that person who could know all the nuance and then help me in life. I've done that over the last several years. I've developed relationships with people like Ken, who are older than me, and I can come to him and go, there's no book that's going to help me navigate this very specific issue. I need you to journey in with me. And so
In community.
exactly. So that feels like a step back, but it's a step back to move forward of asking yourself, am I in community where I have access to wise voices in my life?
That's good. And so another area where a lot of questions came around was in the spousal relationship. So as a believer, maybe my husband's not a believer, or if he is, he hasn't journeyed or matured as far as me. And so when I speak the truth in love, or when I'm presenting things, I'm not getting the equal type of response or interaction based on where they are. How does one navigate that in their marriage?
Yeah, it's tricky. And that's a whole different sermon. Paul will speak to the Corinthians about that. What happens if you become a believer and your spouse isn't? And his advice to them was, as far as it depends on you, live at peace and do all that you can to preserve the relationship, because you are a witness to Jesus in that home. And that creates, again, a lot of scenarios of, what do I do exactly? I think in a very general sense, the Christian in a non-Christian environment, and this is spouse or child or parent, is you want to model Christian love and service as much as you can. Go as far as you can to communicate to the other person, I respect you and I love you. And ways to communicate that I've found is I want to celebrate everything in your life I can celebrate. So if I'm only coming to you with the things that I dislike that you do or wish were different, and someone feels nagged or picked on, it's going to create distance. But if I can come to you and routinely, regularly do things for you I know that speak value or love to you around the home, if I can sincerely compliment in you the things I really deeply appreciate and love about you, even if I have to dig deep to find them, that creates an atmosphere where confrontation might be received better. But that's maybe the first big piece of advice I would give. And if you're talking about a Christian, non-Christian, you do have grounds relationally to say, I think for the good of our marriage, I would like this or that. And again, realizing you may hit limits where they may not want to. And depending on what the issue is. It may be something you agree to disagree for a season, or if it's something much more dramatic with implications financially or socially for your kids, maybe you need to start pulling in other voices. But again, that you start getting into some specifics where you need some help. But,
That's good. So one of the questions that came around is, how do you know when you're trying to reconcile with someone and you're doing what we're talking about today, moving towards them and speaking to them, how do you know when a relationship can't be reconciled or you've done all that you can do?
Yeah.
Do you ever reach a point with that in relationships?
Yes, because, and there's great books on that, Boundaries by Townsend is a great one, of going, you have to realize there is a limit of what I can do and what you can do. A relationship takes two people. And that's why I think, the Bible's so wise when it says, as far as it depends upon you, live at peace with all men. What's the assumption there? There will be limits. Maybe you're doing the things you can do to seek peace with someone and they don't want to, You are trying to be loving, attentive, calm when you voice concerns, and they rage and are physically abusive. Well, at that point, for the safety of the kids, you may need to step away. Praying for reconciliation, praying for repentance in their life, leaving yourself open to forgive them, but that doesn't mean I continually put myself in jeopardy. And again, that's where you get to, and you really need some specific counsel on that. But the general answer is, yeah, there may come moments in any relationship, even a friendship, where you go, I've told them, I've apologized for all I know I did wrong. I've told them I'm opening to healthy communication with you about resolution. But if they're not open, you can't do anything. You really can't. It takes two people. And so you have to really go, what's as far as I can go? Let me go there. And then I may get in situations where Jesus did, where you just have to let the person walk away. And it's sad, but you let them walk away.
One of the questions that came around, I think, hits a lot of what we feel as believers. We recognize sin in ourselves. We recognize sin in a friend or someone else. How do we address sin in someone else's life without seeming like a hypocrite? Because we know we don't have it all together.
Right.
Either. We're coming from a sinful standpoint. How do we do that without being hypocritical?
Yeah, well, I think and honestly, I think it's a tactic of the enemy is for us to say, how could you confront that person? You have this issue. And you go, then we both won't say anything. You go, okay, so then both stay in ways of living that aren't productive or healthy for you. How is that glorifying to Jesus? When Jesus confronted that issue, he said, don't try to get the splinter out of a brother's eye when you got a board in yours. But he didn't go, so see what I'm saying? And stop there. He goes, get the board out of your eye and then go help them. So he kept going like, don't just go, well, I got a board. You go, yeah, get it out and then go help them. And so you do all you can do to fight sin in your own life. And then if you see someone, you can say, hey, look, you can tell them, I know I'm not perfect. I know I have these issues. And I know in our relationship, I've done some things that aren't healthy and good. I've tried my best to apologize for them. Here's an issue I see in your life that concerns me. And I'm not telling you to try to win anything. This isn't a win for me. This is me concerned about you. And because I love you, I'm addressing this issue in your life. And if you come from a humble place of, I'm putting my heart out there and saying, this is an awkward conversation for me. The only reason I'm saying it is because I love you and I want what's best for you. They might reject you, but you've made it harder, because you've come in with humility. And so that's what I would say is fight sin in your own life and then come to them from a humble place and be courageous enough to speak, but do it from a humble place.
So what if I tried this before and it went bad? So the other person got aggressive and then I responded aggressively and I let my emotions get out of control. And with all the good intentions that I had going in were shot.
Went sideways.
Sideways. How do I then recover from or try again?
Yeah. Well, I sympathize with whoever has it because I've done that. And there have been relationships early in my faith And it happens to a lot of people when you come to Christ. You get real like, this is the right way. This is the truth. This is it. Everyone should know this. What's the matter with you? And you're like, I had relationships where we both came in like freight trains. We're like, boom, and bounced back. And I realized later, yes, this behavior of theirs was wrong. My way of addressing it was wrong. And so I've had to come back to people that were still doing things that were wrong and say, hey, I want you to know the way I treated you was inappropriate. And I don't need to wait for you to deal with this issue for me to own mine. I shouldn't have talked to you that way, and I'm sorry. And leave it. And don't say, and now you need to say sorry back because of the 4 things you just did. You just come in and say, as far as it depends on me.
Owning your part.
Yeah, I made a mistake, and I'm sorry. And then say, I feel like we're not done talking about that issue. I'd like to come back around it, but I think we need to find a way to do it that's more constructive. And again, if you've come to them alone and the 2 of you can't get there, can we get someone else in this conversation to help us? Bring a witness. Maybe it's a counselor if it's your marriage. Maybe it's someone at the church. Maybe it's another friend if you're dealing with a friend issue. But you follow Matthew 18.
That's good. Last question.
Okay.
Actually, it's 2 questions, but I'm going to combine them into one.
Yeah, let's go.
Christians in the workplace. We had questions come in around there. Questions about my boss as a Christian. How do I address my boss on maybe something that I'm seeing if it could possibly jeopardize my work? And in the same respect, I'm working with patients or I'm working with customers. Or I'm working with people where I see issues, but I'm not sure what our relationship should look like at work professionally.
Yeah. I would say there are inherent risks in those. And so I think you don't want to jump on, the prudent man overlooks an insult. So maybe your boss is short with people or rude one day. You go, I don't know what they're going through at home. I'm going to pray for them, and I'm going to model healthy relational dynamics as far as I can in this office. I will be like Jesus in this place. And so I wouldn't jump at the slightest offense. But if you're seeing a pattern in their life, it is scary. But you get a lot of stories biblically of Christians like Daniel that are going to say, well, I will speak the truth, and if I die, I die. And you've got a Daniel, an Esther, a Nehemiah. You have people that were willing to come to the person in power and say, this is an issue. And were they always at risk? Yes, they were. Did it stop them? No, it did not. And I had a friend do this recently, and it really scared him. He's like, I like my job. I like what I'm doing. It would be bad if this went down. But I watched it long enough to go, this is a pattern I see in his life. And he came to him and did it in a gracious way, told him all the things he loves about him, told him all that he loves about working there, and said, I want to bring something up, and it's because of my concern for you. And he did it in a way, he's like, it went great. He said it brought us closer together, it was solid, it was good, and things are better than ever. His life's better, our relationship's better, everything's better. And you're like, that's awesome, good for you, man. I've had other people get fired. And you know what? You go and have the peace in your heart of knowing it's God who takes care of you, not that person. And if they throw you in the furnace, Christ is standing there alongside you. And I know that's easy for me to say. It may sound like it's easy for me to say, but I understand that. These are the risks we take. And that's where we come against the culture with something very different. We have to be willing to do that. Now, with clients, again, I don't know, because again, what's the nature of the relationship? If you see them once, do you have the relational capital to do so? I don't know. The dynamics are so varied, it's hard for me to say. And in a one-shot moment with someone, you usually can't get a read. Is this a thing where I just prudently overlook it? Or is this a pattern that I see that I need to address out of love for them? That's maybe the most helpful general advice I can give.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Both weeks, I love how, as we talked about unity and diversity and being in community with people, inevitably that brings conflict. So I love how you challenge us to do that, but then also gave us some very real practical outworkings of how to make that work.
I hope so. Let's try it.
It was really good. It was really good. I think about our communities here and our small groups and just being able to relate to people and engage in a way that's not emotional, but it's caring for each other. So I thank you for that.
Yeah,
we loved having you here.
Oh, thanks. It was
yes.
fun.
So thank you for joining us, and thank you for joining us here for Postscript. We'll see you back here next week.
Thanks for joining us for Postscript. Help us keep the podcast interactive by submitting your questions during the morning services. Learn more at faithbridge.org/postscript.